Everybody knows about the Irate Gamer show on YouTube, except me. It was written by an Ohioan retro video game player named Chris Bores, who was inspired by early YouTube satirical retro video game reviewers such as Play It Bogart and the Angry Video Game Nerd. As someone who came to the scene later and was more than happy to wear his influences on his sleeve to the point that some jokes and other content seem very close to the works he based his from, he has taken a lot of flack from people who take the Angry Video Game reviewing thing probably a little too seriously. Now, what a lot of people overlook is that Chris Bores is also a professional ghost hunter. In fact, it appears clear that if it would be enough to pay the bills, he'd be a full-time ghost hunter searching for EVPs in haunted locations all over the globe. Even more overlooked is the very name of Chris Bores' ghost hunting team, the Haunted Investigators. At first glance, one might just think, oh, okay, he investigates the haunted, but that name really implies much, much more. That their investigators themselves are haunted. The most direct ties to the paranormal on the Irate Gamer show can be found in his Zombies Ate My Neighbors review. In it, Chris is frequently interrupted by a rambling skeleton with a thick Jewish accent and matching mannerisms named Ronnie. While it appears that Ronnie is wearing a skeleton suit, he makes it clear that he is an actual skeleton, discussing an audition to play the role of such an entity in the original The Legend of Zelda. What's even creepier is that Ronnie's voice is in nature similar to Chris's, suggesting that the two are actually closely related. So, what does all this mean? Is Ronnie just Chris Bores in a skeleton suit? Is Ronnie Chris Bores' brother? A cousin? Kind of like his Cousin Joey character, perhaps? Or is Ronnie something else? This whole thing is crazy, you respond. The Legend of Zelda line gives the whole thing away as a joke. People or skeletons didn't audition to appear in NES games. Well, you're right. You're absolutely right. Ronnie is in fact no more than Chris Bores in a skeleton costume, but that's just the character on the show. Let me explain something else. On June 6, 2006, the Dayton Daily News out of Dayton, Ohio, ran a very disturbing story. It was about a Caucasian man, seemingly in his 20s, wearing a button-down, white-collar t-shirt, digging in the middle of a cemetery in broad daylight. When people asked him what he was doing, he laughed kind of gruffly and off-kilter, claiming that he was digging for ET 2600 Atari cartridges. In fact, in one of his videos, you can see him supposedly digging for ET cartridges in the middle of an open field somewhere. That's actually a large patch of grass located right outside of the cemetery itself, and some say that if you look at his ET video very closely, you can see tombstones or graves that Chris attempted to use video effects to edit out, but they blended into the background so much that his video editing software just couldn't do the trick. I rewatched the video looking for them, and I saw something, but going back to the newspaper story, there was no gravekeeper around during the time of the day that Chris was there. Some people considered calling the cops or perhaps the cemetery police themselves, but instead one person figured he could become famous by having the Dayton Daily News come over and interview him while shooting footage of Chris Bores. Before long, there were two reporters, a man and a woman, present with microphones in hand, as well as the Dayton Daily News truck. So what happened to this story? Can you find it on the internet? Well, I haven't. According to some internet forums I Googled and Yahoo'd for, something very strange happened. One of the reporters claimed that she saw Chris dig up a casket, unlock it with some kind of dull, dirty key, and then he dug up a skeleton. What happened next is unexplainable. The news crew claims the audio and video footage just turned out to be static, like the kind you sometimes see at the beginning or end of a VHS tape. Because no one would believe they captured all this and then just suddenly somehow lost it. For paranormal reasons, perhaps? They don't talk about it much anymore. As aforementioned, they did run a story on the website, but according to the forums I've been to, everyone thought the article was stupid or a joke, so it was taken down with no trace of it ever existing. Again, I'm not saying the Ronnie character on the Irate Gamer show is an actual skeleton. I'm just saying that sometimes inspiration comes from some rather bizarre places.